What's up, everybody? My name is Adam Colburn, and this is the Properties and Pourovers podcast. This podcast is dedicated to all things real estate, business, and entrepreneurship, all while drinking really good coffee. And so for this first episode, I just wanted to introduce myself, kind of talk about what my business looks like currently, and how I've got here in the last few years. In future episodes, I'll be bringing on some amazing guests to learn about their origin stories and their businesses, the hurdles that they had to overcome to get to where they are, and provide some key takeaways that you can implement in your business if you're just getting started or if you're already growing and running a business yourself. And just want to provide value as much as we can. So I guess we'll just dive in. So currently, my business ventures are primarily in real estate as a fix and flipper, a wholesaler, and a buy and hold investor. We're currently flipping around 3 to 4 houses at a time here in North Carolina. I have 6 rental units, some here in North Carolina and some in the Florida Panhandle, as well as a sober living house that we just launched in Knoxville, Tennessee. We also wholesale a handful of properties as well each month. And outside of real estate, I'm one of the co-owners of Parallax Coffee Lab here in downtown Wendell, and that's been an absolute blast to be a part of. So I've got a lot of plates spinning right now. It can be overwhelming at times with all the projects we're working on at once. But it's really fun. Every day is different, which is really cool. And it's really exciting to see how far we've built the business in a little bit of time, and really excited to see where we're going to take it next. And so you might be thinking, well, how'd you get here? Like, do you have experience in real estate? Did you grow up around it? Like, why'd you get in the space? And the quick answer is no. I had no prior real estate experience or business experience at all before jumping in. But with some help of some local investors and some mentors, just learned through trial and error. And so my background right out of college was in photography. I had shot some engagements, weddings, portraits, stuff like that. I grew up around a dad who was a photographer. He shot for a lot of magazines, and he did some real estate stuff for agents. And so I was able to tag along with him on some shoots throughout my childhood, and that really sparked my interest in cameras. And so in high school and college, I was really into skateboarding. Me and my friends were always filming each other at the skate park or going out street skating on the weekends and stuff. And that really piqued my interest even more into kind of honing in on that craft, learning all about cameras and exposures, really dialing in kind of my style of shooting. And so it was actually my sophomore year in college was for my first paid gig. One of my best friends was proposing to his girlfriend, now wife. And that was the first time I had focused on the portrait side of photography, which was like a whole new world of possibilities, and getting able to capture those like really sweet moments for people was really rewarding. And so after that shoot, I started putting up some ads on Craigslist and Facebook, stuff like that, and started booking some engagements, and eventually moved into shooting weddings on the weekends. Did that for a handful of years just as a side hustle, just to make some money doing a hobby that I already loved, and that was really fun, but never really turned into a viable business. And so my day job out of college, I started working as a temp in a pharmaceutical company, and we just kept shooting on the weekends, doing that kind of stuff. But I really wanted to find a way to pursue photography full time. I didn't really care what I was shooting. I just wanted to be with my camera. And so randomly found this job posting on LinkedIn about a full-time real estate photographer. And so I had a little bit of experience following my dad around, and I would fill in for him every once in a while if he wasn't able to keep up with his bookings. And so I had a little bit of experience, but didn't think that this guy would ever call me back. But luckily he did, and he said he liked the examples I sent him, could see some ways that he could kind of train me up and perfect my craft. And he ended up offering me the position, and he said I could start right away. And so I immediately put my notice in at the pharma company, and jumped in the car with him, and we started shooting houses every day. And so we travel all around the triangle, shooting anywhere between 10 to 15 houses a day. And that was really where like my love of real estate came into play. I'd always watched HGTV shows like flipping houses and stuff with my parents growing up, and it was cool, but it was a whole new world, like walking into these houses, and it was super inspiring to see these just junker houses that they turned into these beautiful homes, and was super interested in like, how do these guys do it? But it was definitely like a mindset thing for me. I had a really bad case of imposter syndrome at the time, And I was like, I don't know how these guys find these houses, how they fund them. Like, it just didn't make any sense to me. And at the time, my wife and I were just renting our house. And I was like, dude, I can't even afford the house I live in right now. How am I going to go buy an investment property and dump all this money into it and sell it? Like, it's not feasible for me. And so I just kind of put that on the back burner of my mind and just kept grinding away, shooting houses for a couple of years. And that company was growing rapidly, which was awesome, but we couldn't keep up with demand. I could only shoot so many houses in a day. And so I basically created a position for myself and pitched this new position to my boss is like, hey, why don't I get out of the car and become our operations manager? I can train up my replacement. We can hire some more photographers, and I can go home, schedule all of their appointments, like build out their schedules for the week, build relationships with the realtors that we work with, keep them happy and keep them coming back to do work with us. And he really liked the idea. And so that was a way to get me out of the car and free up some of my time, which worked out perfect because right around that time, my wife and I had our first son, Mason. And so I was able to be at home for the first full year of his life, which I wouldn't trade for anything. It was awesome to be a part of that. And it was really cool. We had some flexibility at the time. I spent a lot of time building out those routes. Once it was all locked in, we were good, and I had time to spend with him, and it was really cool. But it was really fun until it wasn't. And we got to the point where I'm waking up early to fill up these appointments. I'm staying up late to send edited photos to these agents that needed rushes for the weekend and stuff like that. And it basically got to the point where I had to lock myself in my office to get any work done because my son's growing up. He's learning to crawl. He's chasing me around the house. And there wasn't really any work-life balance. Like, I didn't feel like a great father at the time because I couldn't be fully present with him. Obviously, I had work obligations. And I didn't really feel like a great or efficient employee because I had all these distractions of having Mason chase me around. And so I was just being torn in both directions, didn't feel like I was doing either one very well. And I was like, man, I think I would rather just go back to a desk job where I can just clock in and clock out. And when I'm not at work, I don't have to think about work. I can just go home, spend time with my family, and that's that. And I'll just shoot on the weekends again, do that kind of stuff. Like, it'll be fine. And so I ended up leaving that photography job, went back into the pharma space, doing some specialized HVAC work at a plant just outside of Raleigh. And so I had known some of those guys from my previous employer, and the work's really easy. Like, I already knew how to do it, but right when I started, I could see the ceiling, right? Like, all my coworkers had been there for 20 plus years. There's only so many ladder rungs to climb in the business. And we basically work for a couple hours a day. They'd come back to their desk and just stare at their 401ks, watch them fluctuate with the market and just waiting to retire. And I wanted so much more for my family, for myself. And it all came to a head when we had our second child, our daughter, Gwen. She was about 3 months old, and I'm having this existential crisis on our couch at 2 a.m. And I'm like, dude, how am I going to make enough money to provide the life that my family deserves? Like, I want to leave a legacy for my kids. I want to build generational wealth so they have a leg up and can really have all the opportunities available to them. And where I was currently at my pharma job, that just wasn't happening. Like, we were barely making ends meet. I made decent amount of money, but I mean, diapers, food for 2 kids, like, it was a lot. And so I needed to find a way to make extra money, and just went down that rabbit hole of YouTube trying to find every side hustle under the sun. I tried to print on demand t-shirt company, drop shipping, try to do some stock trading, and I'm spending a ton of time researching these and trying to implement them, and none of them are really working for me. And eventually I stumbled across this video by Jerry Norton talking about how he flipped this piece of paper and he made $40,000. And I immediately think, dude, what? There's no way. Like, this is totally a scam. Like, how could you possibly make that much money flipping a piece of paper? Like, that doesn't even make sense. But I tried everything else up to that point, and so I was like, what will this hurt? It's 15 minutes. I'll watch the video. And that was the first time I was introduced to wholesaling. And so he basically broke down the whole process of how he goes and finds this distressed property, puts that property under contract with the homeowner, and then takes that contract and sells it to a local fix and flipper, and he made 40 grand. And my mind was just like completely blown. Like, dude, no, there's no way that this was even possible. Like all I had ever known was the MLS because I was a real estate photographer. I was taking pictures of these houses for agents, and I thought you only bought and sold houses with an agent on the MLS. And you never see these ugly homes on the MLS, or very rarely. I didn't know that there was this whole other world of real estate. And so I started joining all these real estate groups and investing groups and stuff on Facebook, and watching all these other YouTube videos to see, like, is this dude really legit, or is this just some scam or funnel to get you to buy into some course that doesn't work? And so I found a guy locally to me here in Raleigh, and basically came to him and said, like, dude, can you show me a receipt of you like actually making money doing this? I didn't even know what a HUD was, like a closing statement. And he's like, yeah, I actually sold a piece of land recently to a builder here, and I made 25 grand. Like, here's the receipt. And that was all the proof I needed. I was like, dude, like, this is crazy. So I just went head first, consuming all the content that I could get my hands on, every YouTube video, every podcast, every book that I could find, and just learning as much as I possibly could, as fast as I could, because I wanted to make this happen. Like, this looked like a viable option for us to make like a ton of money and buy some of that time back and build that generational wealth that I wanted for my family. And so I did that for about a month or so, just consuming, but it gets to the point where you got to take the action, right? And I was terrified of picking up that phone. Like, I was pretty introverted at the time, and the thought of calling a stranger and asking them to sell me their house at a discount was just absolutely terrifying. And so I just kept researching, but it got to the point where I was like, dude, you gotta make a decision. Are you actually going to try this and figure this out, or just give up now? You're just wasting your time. And so that guy that showed me the HUD of his 25K gave me a suggestion on some software to go and pull a list for these properties that people might be open to selling. And I went and did that, started to find the homeowners' phone numbers, and just started making calls on my lunch break. And I mean, the first handful, like, even when the people would say hello, I would just hang up. Like, I was terrified. Just the fear of rejection. I had no idea what I was doing. And but it just slowly got better, like 1% better every day, kind of built up those muscles, and eventually started putting properties under contract. Had a handful of deals just fall apart because I didn't know what I didn't know. I was locking them up too high. I wasn't able to sell them, or the seller would lie about something and I didn't realize it. And the flipper would go out and be like, yeah, this renovation is going to cost double what this house costs. Like, this isn't a deal. And so I keep researching, finding other people, and I stumble across my guy, Pace Morby, one of my great mentors. Love his teaching style. Just love the way that he broke down the business. And so I joined his free Facebook group, started networking there like crazy, and found another local investor here in Raleigh that was just getting started right about the same time. But he had a different problem. He was making great money at his job, but he wanted to buy his time back. He's a CPA by trade, and so tax time, he was just drowning in tax returns. And so I basically approached him and was like, look, man, I know you have more money than time. I don't have much of either right now, but I've got more time than you. Why don't you fund our marketing efforts, and I'll do all the phone sales. I'll lock up these deals. I'll sell them, and we just split the fees. And he's like, yeah, dude, that sounds awesome. That works perfect for me. And so we started doing that. We hired some virtual assistants, and they started bringing in some decent leads. I would have the follow-up calls, go out to appointments, and we started locking up deals. It took a couple months, but we got there. Our first deal, I think it was small. It was like $3,500 that we split, but that was all the proof of concept that we needed to see, like, yeah, this is a legitimate business. We can make money. And that was the beginning of the snowball effect. We started getting some more deals. I got better on the phones, and we ended up closing a monster deal like 2 weeks later. Still the biggest deal that we've done so far. It was a $49,000 assignment. And that deal just broke my brain. Like, I basically made my salary in a week's time. Like, it was insane. And so, like, this is fun. Like, let's keep doing this. And then we started getting really good opportunities that we could cherry pick and start fix and flipping ourselves. And so, I mean, we made a ton of mistakes. Like, we had no idea what we were doing. We had a tenant issue. We had to kick him out of the property. We overshot our budget by a ton. The project took 2 to 3 months longer than we anticipated, but we still made a really good profit on our first one. And we just started scaling that side of the business too. And now we're running 3 to 4 flips at a time. And I started buying rentals to have some cash flow and some tax benefits there. And it's been great. And so during all of that real estate stuff is where the coffee shop came into play. And one of my good buddies, he's actually one of my neighbors here in Wendell. We're both like super coffee nerds, and we were having a game night, got our families together for a game night at his house, and we were just talking about coffee shop stuff, just coffee in general, and how cool it would be to own a shop. And I've loved specialty coffee ever since I was like 16, and always had this like bucket list item of, like owning a shop would be awesome. Have a space that people can come drink really good coffee, have like just a family friendly vibe though, not like snooty hipster shop like a lot of these places around. And so we daydreamed for a while, and that was fun, but didn't really think much of it. We ended the game night and I just kind of went back to working on my flips and doing deals and all that stuff. And like 3 or 4 months later, he just calls me out of the blue and he's like, "Hey man, remember that game night that we had and we were talking about opening a coffee shop?" And I was like, "Yeah, what about it?" He's like, "Well, do you want to do it?" And I was like, "What do you mean? Like, what? How?" And so he owned a media agency at the time, and he was doing a lot of content and photos and videos for a local brewery, and they were killing it at the time. This was like a year after COVID, just crushing their numbers. And the owners actually had some experience in commercial banking. And so he wanted to start buying some properties down here in downtown Wendell. And so they ended up buying 3 properties right next to each other. They had leases signed or tenants picked out for the other 2, had this middle open building, and essentially wanted to pick their tenant. They had heard him talking about coffee like crazy over the past few months as he was shooting all their stuff. And he's like, "Well, we have this open building. You keep talking about a coffee shop. Like, if you guys want to do it, why don't you do it here?" And we're just like, "Dude, no way." Like, all right, yeah, let's try it. We might as well. And so neither of us had any experience in coffee. We just loved it. And so we just kind of took that leap of faith and jumped at it, started another LLC for the business, and just kind of dove in and came into this just empty rectangle of a building and just bootstrapped it the whole way, turned it into this amazing, beautiful, high-level coffee shop in our little town, and made this little spot like a coffee destination. People are driving all over the state to come and check us out, which has been insane. And the response we're getting from all the locals has been super rewarding. There was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that went into this building. And to kind of see the fruits of our labor has been awesome. And so I mean, I had no experience in my real estate stuff, no experience in business of any kind, especially like a coffee shop. But it's just the power of surrounding yourself with really good people and just taking massive action and just kind of learning along the way. And so that's my story. I'm excited to see where we take it, and I'm excited to get this podcast started, to bring on some killer guests in the future that are way further along than me in their businesses, and kind of share their story on how they got there, some key takeaways that you can use in your business if you're getting started, and just provide value any way we can. And so if you've listened this far, I really appreciate the time to get to know me. And until the next episode, I'll see you later. Peace.